Good morning, friends. I would like to begin with the letter to the Hebrews. It is from chapter 11, verses 4 onwards. But I would just read 2 verses. By faith Enoch was taken so that he did not experience death. And he was not found because God had taken him. For it was attested before he was taken away that he had pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please God, for whoever would approach him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. I would like to begin by quoting Lumen Gentium 58. It says, "The Blessed Virgin advanced in a pilgrimage of faith and faithfully persevered in union with her Son." Confreres, the last talk I would like to speak is about our Blessed Mother, Mary's pilgrimage of faith. As I have just read to you Hebrews 11:6, without faith it is impossible to please God. I would like to present to you the gaze of Mary, the tender adoration and a fire gaze, the 3 divine reasons to be grateful for our mother, and the stages of the pilgrimage of Mary: vocation, mission, contemplation, rediscovery, faith and fidelity, and an apostle praying. And last, I'd like to end with Mary in the life of Don Bosco. 2 months back, we have witnessed millions of Indian migrant laborers who were walking on foot to reach their homes and hundreds of kilometers away, isn't that? I give you a few examples and glimpses of some faith-filled and courageous women. A young woman who was seen walking and carrying one child on her hips and the other on her shoulder, walking 350 kilometers from Shanti Sujata, going back to Gujarat. We have Nikita, a pregnant woman, as she walked on the road wearing a sari. The woman who started her walk at 7 p.m. said she had been on the road for the last 12 hours. A woman with her 6-year-old daughter, who was a part of a group traveling from Maharashtra to Jaipur in an eastern Uttar Pradesh, died in an accident, as reported by the NDTV. They had traveled 1,000 kilometers in an auto rickshaw for 3 days when they were hit by a truck just 230 kilometers away from their hometown. A migrant worker, Shakuntala, risked walking a distance of 1,000 kilometers from Nashik to Satna in the 9th month of her pregnancy. The woman gives birth to her baby on the roadside, rested for an hour and continued her journey with the newborn. A mother and her daughters walked 475 kilometers to their home in Kanpur amidst the coronavirus lockdown, and the stories go on and on. Confreres, these are stories of courageous and faith-filled women. Likewise, 2,000 years back, it was also the story of the Blessed Mother looking for an inn, pangs of hunger, difficulties, dangers, walking miles on foot, searching for a place to stay. My dear confreres, Mary's journey was much far. If we were to count in kilometers, Mary's life of faith is a pilgrimage of constant surprises, of sorrow and of joy, isn't it? She persevered and remained constant in her psychological and spiritual union with Jesus, her Son. Our constitutions would tell us Mary is present among us, Constitution 8. We contemplate and imitate her, Constitutions 92. Constitutions 8 would say we become witnesses of the young for a son's boundless love. 92 would also say, we recite the rosary each day, we celebrate her feast and encourage a more convinced and personal imitation. I move to the first part, the gaze of Mary, Mother Mary. We see in the Bible the tender gaze of our Blessed Mother. When at last she gave birth to Jesus in Bethlehem, her eyes were able to gaze tenderly on the face of her son as she wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger, Luke 2:7. Second, we see the gaze of adoration and wonder. At times it would be a questioning look, as in the episode of the finding of the temple, her son who was lost. The son says, when they asked, why have you treated us so, in Luke 2:48? It would always be a penetrating gaze, one capable of deeply understanding Jesus, even to the point of perceiving his hidden feelings and anticipating his decisions, as at Cana. It would be a look of sorrow, especially beneath the cross. Her vision would still be of a woman giving birth. She received a new son given to her in the beloved disciple, John 19:26-27. And third, we see the gaze of fire. The gaze of fire. On the morning of Easter, hers would be a gaze of radiance, with the joy of the resurrection, and finally on the day of Pentecost, a gaze of fire with an outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Believe me, confreres, no one has ever devoted himself or herself to the contemplation of the face of Christ as Mary. Our prayer as Salesians must be, grant that my gaze may become ever closer to the face you contemplate of your mother. It is from here that I move to the second part. Divine good reasons we need to be excited about Mary and be grateful to her. It was God who chose Mary long before we ever got to know her. God first chose her as mother, and only subsequently could we invoke her maternal protection. Long before she was Our Lady, she was the humble servant of God. Mary can evoke wonders in us, not so much for what she can do for us, but rather for all that God worked in her. Mary is full of grace because God freely granted it to her, and not because of us or because of our attachment or devotion to her. But God looked at Mary before she looked at her Lord. What is my gaze towards her as Salesian fathers and brothers? How do I look at my mother, Heavenly Mother? Do I constantly walk with her help, her guidance, her inspiring life? Let us set out now to go through the various stages of her faith. Our constitutions, number 34, would say, we make her known and loved as the one who believed. So the first, my dear friends, the first journey, the first step of our faith journey is, faith, we know, is the fundamental attitude of the believer, since the letter to the Hebrews says in 11:6, without faith it is impossible to please God. And Elizabeth calls Mary as the one who believes, congratulating her as blessed. Mary's faith, we see, is above all trust in God. Mary does not entrust herself to God's plans, but rather to the God of the plan. And third, we see Mary's faith is expressed and takes practical form in her obedience. Great believers in the history of salvation are genuinely the obedient ones, beginning with the father of faith, Abraham. A faith does not lead us to seek God's will is not faith. Or if this faith is not put into actions, then it is not genuinely Christian. because it would be reduced to a sterile intellectual exercise or to an inconclusive, vague desire. And so, confreres, let's journey to the stages of Mary's pilgrimage of faith. First, Nazareth, encounter with God, meeting with a God who is Savior. Luke 1, 26 to 38. Her first stage of adventure of faith is a starting point. Mary was that she was chosen to be the mother. She believed and she accepted. Luke 1:45 would say, she became mother in having become first servant. Second, the mission, the response of our Blessed Mother with the motherhood inaugurated. Let's remember, her motherhood is God's grace. Our Mother Mary is full of beauty because she is full of grace, Pope Francis says. Mary places herself at the service of an old woman who is pregnant, who needs help. The faith in her pushes her to help her. Third, a journey from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. This shows us the contemplation aspect, to see the heart of the things with the eyes of her heart. In Bethlehem, she had to be evangelized by foreigners. In Jerusalem, she presents God, the Son of her faith, and was rewarded with the sword in her soul. Being a mother was not an extraordinary privilege. It was an unmerited grace. The fourth stage, a movement from Jerusalem to Galilee. The loss of the Son and the rediscovery of Him. The more the child grew up at home, the more the mother lost him, because he also grew in the awareness of being son and of his duty to take care of the things of the Father. Galilee, place of public ministry of Jesus, and Mary is an absentee. If she goes to see Him, she is not received. If she is not with Him, she is not blessed. Thus, this experience, Mary moves from being a mother to becoming a believer. The fifth journey, from Cana to Jerusalem. With Mary are possible faith and fidelity. She is united with the hour of Jesus. She is present at the happiest moment and in one of the most desolate moments, the cross. And here we see her presence has to do with the faith of the disciple. Sixth, her journey from Jerusalem. Acts 1:14, Mary finally among the apostles who prays. Mary ends her journey of faith by living in community among the apostles who are praying but not yet fully committed to carrying out the command of Jesus. Mary of the Gospels is in this sense an icon of our God. What God was for Mary, He continues to wish to be in the lives of each one of us. And thus, confreres, we see her vocation, her mission, contemplation, a rediscovery of Him, faith and fidelity, and lastly we see she is a praying apostle. Am I faith-filled Salesian like Mary? Do I speak of a faith journey to the young and challenge them to live life like a Blessed Mother? Am I filled and inspired by a faith-filled life in my ministry? Does our faith give us courage and optimism? You know, one of the superb summary that I find is in the article number 8. It says, we find three key words which capture the maternal presence of Mary in the life of our founder. She showed Don Bosco the field of labor among young and was the constant guide and support, especially in the foundation of the society. And lastly, confreres, I would like to speak to you on Mary's intervention, her maternal intervention in the life of Don Bosco. Mary showed Don Bosco his field of labor among the young. Something that strikes me is when little John asks a two-part question. The first about the identity of the mysterious personage, and second, his name. One cannot but recall the biblical text in Exodus 3:13. In both cases, he referred to Mary. This is the field of your work. Make yourself humble, strong, energetic. What you will see happening to these animals in a moment is what you must do for my children. This last expression is extremely confrere significant. Receiving his orders from Mary, little John identifies her as mother of the young who are poor, abandoned and in danger. Those who at the end of the dream are transformed from wild animals into gentle lambs, which were all jumping and bleating as if to welcome the man and lady. Second, he is not given only information about the field of work and its purpose, but a method, loving kindness, which together with reason and religion will constitute the system of Don Bosco. Mother and teacher, she guided and supported him. For Don Bosco, she was a teacher and mother. In fact, when dying, he invoked her as mother. In manus tuas domine, commendo spiritum meum. O Mother, open to me the gates of paradise. Do we hesitate to ask the Madonna for help in our necessities? Is the water of our inconsistency cold, lazy and sensuality mixed with the wine of our lively religious and priestly life? Moving words in the Basilica of the Sacred Heart of Rome, now I understand everything 45 years later. Just 2 years before his death on a train, that was bringing him back from Spain, he says, everything is the work of Madonna. Everything came from that Hail Mary recited fervently and honestly with a boy. In 1841, meeting with Bartholomew Garelli, a Hail Mary prophetic catechism lesson. The opening of the oratory at Porta Nuova. In 1859, the announcement of the meeting which would launch the congregation. In 1879, the consigning of the first printed rule to the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians. In 1885, the first appointment of one of our confreres as the Bishop Caliero. The important announcement of the designation of Don Rua as the vicar of the founder. In 1885, Father declared that we owe everything to Mary. Our greatest enterprises and events began and reached fulfillment on the feast of the Immaculate Conception. Here we see everything began with a gentle Hail Mary. The Christian who does not feel the Virgin Mary is his or her mother. Mother is an orphan, says Pope Francis. The Christian who does not feel that the Virgin Mary is his mother is an orphan. Are we consecrated more about asking graces through Mary's intercession rather than concern ourselves about discerning and carrying out the will of God? For Don Bosco, from his earliest years, the Madonna became an everyday mother. She is a mother who not only consoles and encourages but teaches and traces out a program for John, showing him how to implement it. And this lesson would last a lifetime. We should return to talk about the Madonna, the foundress of our congregation. At the end of his life, he was able to say, "We never took a step that had not been indicated by our Blessed Mother." For me, these last words were so moving. The Madonna will raise up redeemers for a new generation. How do we sense her presence, confreres? How do we believe that the Madonna leads every youngster by the hand to our house, taking us under her special protection? May Our Lady, who is here besides us, as she was with Don Bosco, enlighten and help us as she helped and inspired Saint John Bosco. God bless you.